Welcome back to another episode of The Authentic Way. My name is Jess, and we're here to talk about all things about reconnecting with your most authentic self and the inner magic that already exists within you. We'll dive into all things like self-love, spirituality, energy, and what it really looks like to start living in alignment with your soul path. Today, we're going to be talking about the liminal space between your old life and your new life. And I feel like a lot of people aren't talking about this. I've personally been really going through this, especially after the year of the snake and now transitioning into the year of the horse. I've been finding it really challenging and long. Being in this very awkward space of not quite in my old life and not quite in the new life. And every day I'm releasing old parts of myself and welcoming in new parts or new areas of my life that feel more in alignment than others. Some days are pure rest. Some days I'm just trying to figure out where I actually am. I apologize in advance if there's any kids screaming in the background. It's because there's a crazy water gun fight going outside my apartment, which I fully support and I think is a lot of fun. I did wait, but they really are just still going at it. So I thought, I'm just going to do my thing. So because I've been really going through it, I thought, what a better idea than to actually just talk about this. And I feel like a lot of people I've noticed on social media in particular are talking about identity shifting and change your identity right now and blah, blah, blah. In a split second, anything can change. And I am a firm believer of that. I really do believe that in a split second, anything can change, or overnight your life can change. I think that's all really cool. However, I really want to talk about the fact that there is lag time. Even if something happens and all of a sudden your life looks very different, there is still a grieving process, or there is still a place where you're trying to get grounded and your nervous system's trying to catch up. So as sexy and amazing as it sounds to say like identity shift overnight, identity shift in a split second, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. And I feel like no one's actually really talking about that. So I thought I'm going to talk about it because it can be really painful. So here we are. I'm transitioning slightly out of another career. I'm not leaving it, but I've stopped giving my energy towards it because this is the authentic way is really what I want to be focusing on. So yeah, I've really identified with wanting to help people and create something where people can land and meet like-minded individuals who are really going through this process between an old identity and a new identity. And maybe they are, in particular, going through a big life transition and realized that they don't really know who they are. And through this big life transition, they're discovering that, and they're discovering all these parts of themselves that they didn't even know were really there, or they're realizing how small or dim they made them. So in particular, I just want to start out by talking about the liminal space, and that is the space between, like, the lag time between the old life and the new life. And what is happening, and this is the best way it was ever described to me from a therapist, so I can't take credit for this, is your old life is a room and your new life is a different room. And in order to leave the old life, you need to walk through that door and go through a hallway and go to the other room. So that means that in that hallway is that liminal space where you have no idea what is going on. Because you've got like one foot in the door in your old life and you're about to put one foot in the new, and you're in this really, really interesting portal or time where you are trying to just get grounded and you're trying to stay relaxed. And for me, that has looked like welcoming the new, but not overwhelming my nervous system. So I've been resting a lot. I've been journaling a lot, focusing on my body during all of these changes, and like every day in my meditation, and really kind of slowing my life down, essentially. I have gone a little bit into introvert mode. I already am an introvert, but even worse. Definitely have pulled away from people in my life in a very loving way. I feel like the people in my life are quite used to that. But yeah, I've really just been kind of going mouse mode and really getting used to all of these new changes happening around me and what am I actually identifying with. And I think in that liminal space, it can feel like you're kind of blasted into this wide open room or space between two chapters, and you don't actually know who you're becoming, but you know that you no longer want to associate with who you were. However, your body and your nervous system, they know who you were, like past you, really well. And we are very familiar with the idea that our bodies love familiarity. And even though we may decide, like we are consenting to calling it a new life, our bodies still have to catch up to that. And I think that when this change is happening, it's so important to be able to take the time for your body, because your nervous system doesn't do well with the unknown. It doesn't do well with the uncertainty. It doesn't do well with what it doesn't know. So the more that you're pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and say, nope, don't look back, we don't associate with that anymore, the harder it's going to be on your body, and you may land in a place where you actually don't know what to do. And it's kind of like a slight example would be someone's on Instagram, they love posting and they're pushing for followers, and they finally get the viral video that gets them 50,000 followers, let's just say. All of a sudden, I don't know if you've seen some videos, but some people have spoken up of like literal fight or flight. They have no idea how to hold that. They have no idea what to do. They are so uncomfortable because all they knew were their 1,000 followers, and they were like, that's where I was safe. That's who I knew I was talking to. But now it became so out of their control and so uncomfortable that they never actually were able to prep their bodies or nervous systems to hold that or what that might feel like. They'd never visualized it. They had never felt it in a comfortable, safe way. So even though our brains have decided, yes, I want that, our bodies still have to catch up. And I think that is so crucial to start with. And if you aren't taking that time, it's time to start slowing down and getting in touch with your body every single day. And I do think at a certain point, you do need to admit to yourself, like, it is going to be very uncomfortable. And I am 1,000% uncomfortable right now. I am so uncomfortable at the thought of putting myself out there, trying new things. What is this version of me on Instagram? Who is she? How does she speak? And I'm trying all of these new things to see what feels right, what's landing for me and what is landing for others, and where am I finding my niche? Because even though there's things that I thought the authentic way would be, now I'm understanding, oh, that actually doesn't feel good. So in that uncomfortable space, I am learning so much about myself without pushing the edge too much, because that can be really overwhelming. The discomfort isn't like a sign that something's wrong, but I think it's more of a sign that things are changing and you're welcoming in the new, and you're symbolizing to your system, like, it's okay to be uncomfortable, and it's okay that we are here. And the moment that you are now start operating from this newness and from this identity that you really want to call in, grief for your old life will come in ways that you didn't ever expect. It will blindside you, and you're probably going to have no idea why all of these feelings are coming up. And for me, I start to really feel it in my solar plexus, and it moves up into my heart space and up into my throat. And it's this anxiety kind of moving through me a little bit. At first, it feels like anxiety, but then I realize as it kind of moves up into my throat, this somatic feeling, that it's actually emotions. And then typically my eyes fill up with water, and I realize, yeah, I'm actually a little bit sad that I can't operate from the familiar ways. I'm really sad that I have to let those parts of me go. And to me, that grief, at first, I really pushed it away because I was like, angry. If I'm being totally honest, I'm angry at the parts that kept me small. I'm angry at the parts that kept me in similar patterns that never did me any good. And I really had to work through that anger. But once I did, I realized in that grief, there was this mourning for the parts of me that really brought me to this new place. It brought me to this new feeling, and without those parts, I would not be where I am. Those parts did all they knew that they could. They did everything they could for survival to get me here. And now that I'm living a life that is no longer in survival and I'm getting used to this space, I really need to show a lot of compassion and love for those parts because they didn't really know much better. And they did what they thought was right. And I think that grief that comes up is kind of saying, like, thank you for getting me here. You no longer serve me. I don't need you anymore, but I appreciate everything you did to keep me safe. And there's definitely been some moments I've written a couple letters to different parts of me from different aspects of my life, especially with this new identity shift that I've been in. I've written some letters or just notes. I've even been driving in the car and had some emotions come up for certain parts that have gotten me here. And I just talked to them and said, I'm safe. I don't need you anymore. And I'm in a new place and it's okay. I'm going to let you go now. And thank you for serving me. I really appreciate everything you did for me up until this point, but I've got it now. I'm okay. And I think normalizing that you can be really excited about your new life and super hyped up on it, what you're calling in, but you still need to mourn what you're leaving behind. And I think accepting the polarity that both truths can exist is a hard one to swallow and a bit confusing. I think just a general rule in life, like when I started feeling my feelings, was when I actually admitted a while ago that both feelings can exist at once or multiple, even if none of them equal up to each other. Like they're not making any sense. If anything, they're two negatives. That's okay. And you can process your feelings so much easier the moment that you just decide every single emotion can exist here, even if it's excitement and a huge wave of grief. I also think that when you're in the grieving process, it's so uncomfortable because you're like, oh my God, can I not just move on? Like, I want to just forget about these parts. I want to move on to this new version of me. This is who I've named. This is my new routine. This is my new mindset. I don't want the girl who keeps me small anymore. I don't want the one who keeps telling me to not put herself out there, or the one to stay quiet, or she can't, lead someone or do something that's gonna risk being scary. It's so uncomfortable, but it's so important that you do not rush through it. It's a vital step in order to transition from the old room to the new room, and you can't bring those old parts of you to the new room. So when you want to skip to the other side or the new room, it's so important to actually just slow down and admit where you are. And I'm going to say, I will totally admit, I have been in this liminal space for probably 4 to 6 weeks. And it is hard. It is uncomfortable, and it feels like every single day I am releasing parts of myself and I'm calling in the new. And I find myself every single day wanting to rush this process, but it's not what my team wants, my universal team. It's not what I'm actually wanting. Like if I'm calling in this new life, I want to make sure that I'm doing this process properly, because I know the moment that I'm done working through all of this old life energy, my new life door will open. And rushing through it will just mean that I'm going to have to go through this process again. And I have done that. I thought I was through something and I put myself in a new life and just decided that that's what I was identifying with. Meanwhile, there were still parts of me that very much came with me, and I had to go through the process all over again. I think as well, when you are, working through this, and like I mentioned, I've really pulled away from some people, because it's a really hard space to be in. But I think the moment you name what's actually going on, and the moment that you can decide that this is just what you're working through. And by the way, when I say that I've been in this space for 4 to 6 weeks, not all of them are like that. This one is just a very big identity shift for me. And I've been working so hard on all this parts work and understanding what is actually happening and why. And it's quite cutthroat, I will say, but every day really providing that space to show up for myself. But yeah, back to the relationships and me pulling away. I think there's going to be people who just cannot comprehend what is actually going on. And I've realized that those people just might not fully be my people. Like, I still very much keep them in my life. I love them, and they are a part of my journey to a certain degree. But I've just decided, like, I need the people who can just maybe not fully understand what I'm going through, but just accept that this is part of my process and this is a normal part of identity shifting. And the more you can dive into this work and get quiet and be with yourself and really do this inner work in this liminal space period, the faster your new identity will show up. And even though I use the word faster, it doesn't mean like super speed, it's going to happen overnight. It just means that you are so serious about rewiring your nervous system, your brain to accept this new reality of yours, that it takes time and you really need to work through letting go to be able to actually show up for yourself. And if there are people who don't understand that, that's okay. Do with that what you wish. And maybe it'll show you that maybe they're not supposed to be in your life. Maybe they are, and you've just put them in a different friendship category. Maybe you just need them to understand that you are fully and completely going into your turtle shell, and you will be out when they're done, and hope that they're on the other side. Whatever works for you, I think, is great. But there will be people who might think that if you pull away during this liminal space that you are being avoidant, or you're not trying to be friends with them, and that's their insecurity, not yours. You need to just focus on what you're going through and maybe just tell them that you need a little bit of time because you're working through some really big stuff. Okay, and that brings me to my next point of, I think I've talked a lot about how this space is really important to be working on yourself. However, I do not want to normalize this being a space where you need to be productive and working on yourself 24/7. When it comes to nervous system work and rewiring your brain, your neural pathways, or any neuroplasticity work, you must let everything catch up and rest. That might look like your social life just looks a little bit different right now, and that's okay because you need to prioritize your body and the self-care. It doesn't mean you're at home journaling, you're doing the brainwashing, the subconscious rewiring. and any of like the meditations 24/7. It just means that you have your routine, you know what is keeping you grounded every day, you know what you are needing to let go, and you know what you are needing to bring in the new, but still living life beyond that. This is where I do have a hard time. I will admit that sometimes when I am in this mode, I am like, if I am not working hard enough on my self-development, I'm not going to get there. And it's like my trigger is scarcity starts to kick in, that if I don't move fast enough, I'm going to lose this new version of me, which I think is a very real thought. I really sat with it and why. And it's because I've worked so hard at releasing the old versions of me and welcoming in the new that I feel scared now in this liminal place if I don't have somewhere to go. And it might not logically make sense, but it's like our identity and our egos need to hold on to something. It needs to know who and what we are at all times. And I think that when you are in that scarcity mindset, it's just reminding yourself it is there. It's not going anywhere. And at least that's what I tell myself. It's not moving away. We need to be preparing our foundation so that we can receive that new version of ourselves and the life that comes with it. And when you're in there, you might feel like you need to have all this clarity and all these answers exactly where you're going or what you're doing, and that is so not the truth. I think the biggest thing that I've found is in this liminal space is every single time I do something or have a small breakthrough or big breakthrough, regardless, clarity seems to always unfold. The more that I am revealing or have movement within my foundation, the more answers come to the surface. And I think that our new life that we're calling in, or habits, or this person that, we want to bring to the surface, our more authentic selves, more alignment with who we actually are. The clarity doesn't need to be there 100% before we step into the new room. But I do think that having this very deep understanding that the more you can take just the next step or put one foot in front of the other, the more clarity will unfold. Sitting with like open questions is probably the best thing you can do, and having curiosity in everything that you're doing every day. Even just free flow journaling brings so much clarity. It's like your subconscious for the first time gets to come to the surface and just speak its truth. We don't really realize it, but it is always running the show. And the moment that we can just lower our guard, we can hear it really, really loud. When you don't have clarity or answers, I think the journaling and the meditating is the best thing you can do. And just kind of back to like the not rushing, you have to just surrender here and know that you are being taken care of. You are in divine timing. Sometimes when I'm feeling like there's no movement happening, or I'm in a lull, or it feels like I'm treading mud, I just really try and remind myself that I am in this golden beam of light. And I try and picture myself from a bird's eye view, and like this golden light is always protecting and moving me. So that means to me that every single step of the way, I know exactly where I am and why. Even though it might not make total sense to me in that moment, it feels like I'm being guided. And the moment that I can have that clarity of like divine timing and you are being guided, you are exactly where you are supposed to be, I feel I can fully relax into the mud, essentially. It is never easy, and I've been through this so many times, and every single time I come back here, I am humbled at how hard this process is. Sometimes I think that it's our like spirit team above testing us and wants to see how patient we can be or how much trust we have in them and how much we are able to actually surrender into this deep knowing that we're taken care of. And yeah, I would fail every time. Every single time I would fail. And then I kind of fall on my butt and then I get back up and I'm like, all right, okay, surrender. Back here again. Everything that you are processing or going through right now, whether it be the last week or 6 weeks or 3 months, it is building your foundation. And I think having this deep acceptance that this purposeful time for you right now is entirely about you getting prepared to hold what is next. Also, I want to speak to the fact that the universe will send you tests in this phase. It will ask you to show up as the new version of you, and it will send tests in very painful ways, in ways that you are like, what the hell? What did I do to deserve this? This is not part of the plan. Like, literally, you'll be like, this, I am calling in the new, and I am embodying with the new, and now I got handed this test that is so easy for me to go back to my old version. That is the universe saying to you, are you actually ready? Are you actually ready to be this person? Are you going to commit right now, right here, to be this new version and show up this new way? How are you going to hold it? I can give you the craziest example of this. This is when I really locked in with money, and I was never really that great with money before. And I didn't really understand it, and oh my God, I can't believe I'm telling you this. This is vulnerable to share. I really locked in. I started doing my spreadsheets on my spending and understanding where my money was going. And I got really, really serious. And I was like, okay, this is the new me. This is what's going to happen. And I came up with a whole plan, and I'd maybe sat in that for like 2 weeks. And I really stuck with this, like, I am identifying with a person who's good at money, she's responsible, and so on. I kid you not, within like the 3rd week, I got I got 2 massive bills, I'll call them, equaling $25,000 of debt. $25,000 of unexpected debt. I have never felt so victimized in my life. I remember sitting in my office bawling and being like, talking to the universe or source or higher power and saying, like, literally, how could you do this to me? I have just decided that this was my plan. And for the first time in my life that I decide to show up for myself, this is the shit that you deliver to me on a silver platter. This is what you're asking of me. I didn't even know, like, I had zero idea how I was going to pay that. I had, like, literally no idea. And I felt like my whole nervous system went into survival mode. And it got triggered. I really sat in it for a couple days, and I realized, I was driving and I realized, oh my God, this is a test. Like, this is truly a test. This is the universe asking me to show the fuck up for myself. This is the universe saying, it's time. You cannot sit there and be all talk. It's time for you to show up and prove to yourself that you're going to be good at money. And the moment that I realized that this exact test was going to be the massive crux in my life that pushed me to be bigger and better with my finances, like actually not just all talk, but the actual acts of it was going to push me. It was what I was asking for to be this person. The universe gave me this really painful test to deal with. And that's when I was like, okay, let's lock in. Let's do this. If I'm all talk, I'm going to prove to myself that I can do this and I can manage my money and I can pay this off. And I did. And I felt so powerful. I felt like for the first time, like I actually showed up for myself. And I didn't even know I was capable of that. The moment I came out of survival mode, I came up with a plan. I really worked through it. And I decided that like change was going to be made in that moment. And that's how I've moved forward. And that's just kind of still my mindset. So when I say tests are going to show up, maybe it's not going to show up as a $25,000 bill, but it will show up in some manner. But the moment you can recognize it's a test, the easier it becomes to show up as this new version of you, because you're not in this victim mindset. You're like, okay, I am proving to myself, I'm proving to the universe that I am ready to expand and hold. Because in my situation, like financially, I'm calling in more. So therefore, what I need to do in order to expand my capacity for money is I need to be able to expand how much I can hold and how responsible I can be. Because if I'm calling in money and I'm not responsible, or I don't know how to manage it, or I don't really understand it, what's going to happen? It's not going to change my life at all. So the moment I realized, like, yes, this test is actually changing me as a person and preparing for my capacity to hold more and to manage what is coming for me, it became more fun of like, I'm paying this off, I'm doing this, I'm proving to the universe, I'm proving to myself, I'm proving to everyone around me, yes, this is the new me. And I haven't looked back. It's just been a part of me. And I think in that liminal space, it's so easy to feel like a victim. It's so easy to feel stuck and like nothing's moving forward, and it feels like there's no movement. And that's because we're not solid yet. Our feet aren't they're not in the same place, is what I'm trying to say. And when you're between those houses or rooms, the old and the new, you need to stay as grounded as possible, and you need to just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And every time you do that, you are acting from this new place of the new room, and keep walking towards it. And soon it will become your entire identity, and you will be in the new reality, because that's how energy works. The more you embody this person, the more momentum is going to start happening, and energy will call in this entire new life around you, and new experiences and people and events and such. There's movement. This liminal space will test you. And I'm not going to say this lightly. It is so easy to go back to your old life in this space. It can happen so quick. It's feeling impatient, it's feeling scared, it's feeling ungrounded, but it is so important for you to hold on and to just keep looking at the new room and see a little light on in the window, turn on a little lamp mentally, and let that be your light. Let that be your guiding light towards where you're going. I hope this episode was helpful for you today. Thank you for listening. This was definitely feeling very top of mind for me, so I'm so glad that you got to be a part of it. I'll see you next time.